Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappel, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your underdog. Turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Figuring out what living your fullest potential looks like doesn't mean you have to quit your job. It doesn't mean you have to immigrate. No. Or spend the rest of your life hiking the mountains with our next guest, although you're more than welcome to. It's all about integrating your dreams into your waking life. And that's just what our next guest did. Here she is, GERDI VERWOERT. Hello, GERDI. How are you?
I am good. Hello there. God, after this intro, I don't know if I can live up to it.
Of course you can.
That's
mountains.
This is true. I'll try.
Cool. So, GERDI, share with us what it means to integrate your dreams into your waking life. I mean, are there baby steps towards achieving this, or is it like a mountain that you have to climb?
Both. You take baby steps to climb a mountain, I have found. So, before I knew I wanted to move to the mountains after the first time I really visited them and spent time in there as an adult. And I don't mean, there's the skiing holidays, but after I suffered a burnout and was really looking for what it was that I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I then started taking baby steps, figuring out what it was that I wanted to be doing here, and then figuring out how I was going to be able to pay the bills while I was doing what I wanted to be doing. And that took me about 4 years. I continued as a freelance manager back in the Netherlands, while taking summer holidays in Austria in the mountains. And until I came to the point where I said, okay, this is it. Enough is enough. I still don't know quite exactly what it is that I will be doing. But after all those baby steps, I just took a giant leap of faith and sold my house and moved to Austria. But like you said in the introduction, not everybody needs to do that. Some people are perfectly fine figuring out what it is they want to be doing in their own life, in the life that they're living. So,
I mean, you come from a project management background and working with a lot of men and very structured, very logical thinking. And a lot of us don't think like that. We're just scatterbrained and so many options and so many influences from the outside. So taking those baby steps, there's always a starting point, always. Somewhere there's a starting point. Where do you think, or what can you suggest is one baby step that they have to, if you're lost?
If you're lost, if you're really trying to figure out what it is that is truly important to you, perhaps, okay, let's start over. If you're lost and you want to really figure out what is important to you, not even so much what it is that you want to do, but first what is really important to you. A life-altering question that a coach asked me once and that I now ask my own clients was, list some occupations that you really, really, really would like to do. And I don't care if you are qualified to do it, but you would think, oh my God, if I could do this, that would be so amazing. And he gave me a list with 20 dots on it. And he said, put an occupation at each one of them.
20?
I know. So I was like, oh my God, I'll be glad if I can think of 3, let alone 20. He then said, he gave me this magic tip. He said, start with the things you wanted to be when you were little, when you were a kid. And I've always been a tomboy, and I'm a huge Western fan. My dream was always to be able to ride a horse like John Wayne. And I used to be scared of horses, so I don't know where that came from. But so that's where I started, and there's things like cowboy and park ranger, veterinarian and teacher. So, and amazingly, I got to 20 in, I think, 10 minutes or something. And then he said the next step, and that was the important bit, was, okay, now list 3 characteristics of each of those professions and start looking for the common thread. And when I started looking at that, I found there were about 5 categories, I think I could list them under. And that became my core. Those are now my core values. And those are the measuring stick I take every decision by. Things like freedom, independence, teaching, and leading are all on there.
Wow.
So every time I now take and the last one is fun, play, that kind of thing. So every time now that I have to make a major life decision, whether it is, do I want to do this kind of work? Do I want to go and do this activity with my friends? I take my measuring stick and say, okay, does it fit either one of those values? And if none of them fit, I don't do it. And sometimes, I do realize it's not always possible to live up to those values. Sometimes life just happens, and sometimes you have obligations that you cannot ignore. But the major decisions, I don't do anything that I don't want to do anymore.
I love that.
Age helps too.
That's also true. Although I know when I was younger, I was just like, I just got up and left. And making a decision now with children and with home and where the roots are somewhere else.
Yeah.
Although I'm still spontaneous. So for me, it's really, I'm a nomad. So I would still pull my kids up and go, let's go. Let's move. We're going somewhere else.
Yeah, I was different. I'm single. I only have my dog. And if I ask my dog, do you want to go anywhere? So he just, he wags his tail and he's fine. But I think a lot of us are very much, when we're younger, living up to other people's expectations. And I was definitely doing that, going the traditional route of doing well in school and then going to uni and pick a sensible subject. And then when you finish that, go to work because work is important and climb the corporate ladder. So I lived that life for a long time and always knew that's not what I want to be doing. But at the same time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And all of a sudden, 20 years had gone by.
Oh,
exactly. Time flies even when you're not having fun.
Yeah.
So
ain't that the truth?
Yeah. So, and I had to get a really serious wake-up call to step out of that. So, but yeah, and now I'm like, I need less and less, I find. And it's stuff like that is no longer important.
We all tend to have this. Some have really, really shocking curveballs that get thrown at them. Mm-hmm. Like life-threatening moments where they have to make a choice, where they're shaken up. Mm-hmm. I had more emotional shake-ups where it was really shook me to my core, where I realized after probably 18 years, that I had sold my soul to the devil. I was like,
well, yeah,
I am no longer me. And I had to go on this journey again. And, when someone's standing there at the crossroads and someone throws them a curveball and they need to seek, what's important for them in their life. Mm-hmm. Are these baby steps something that they can implement as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Because my emotional curveball was just a huge burnout.
So you had an emotional curveball, so it wasn't health or something drastic?
No, it was all emotional. And I had suffered indigestional problems and weight. I was overweight. My indigestion was all screwed up.
You were overweight?
Yeah.
I want to see a photo.
I've looked for it because I'm like, I want to show people this before and after. But in all my decluttering, I think I threw them out. But I'm visiting my parents next week. I'll check over there if they still have something.
Oh, brilliant.
No, but I weigh more than 100 kilos.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I was always tired. I would wake up so tired. I was so tired. I would almost throw up so tired. And when I finally admitted to myself that I was really burned out, my sister asked me how I was doing. And I said, I'm fine. And I was crying while I was saying it. And so I admitted to myself that I perhaps had gone too far. That was on Tuesday. And by Friday, all my indigestion problems were gone.
No way. God, I'm goosebumps. Wow.
Yeah. So, but mine was definitely emotional and mental, but with me, it very much manifests in a physical way. So I now know my physical alarm signals when I'm doing the wrong things. But yeah. And I started doing the baby steps like I just explained.
Oh, wow. You're up in the mountains a lot.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Share with us what it's like finding answers in the mountains and finding answers in a city. I mean, each to their own, of course, but why did you choose the mountains? Or did the mountains choose you?
I think the mountains chose me. It was happenstance that I happened to come to Austria. I always wanted a dog. So when I finally decided my life was going to take a different direction, I got myself a dog, which meant I couldn't go to faraway places because I didn't want my dog to spend 4 weeks or a month in a doggy daycare center. So I looked for a place where I could go with my dog, and that happened to be Austria. And I fell in love with those mountains. I felt so completely at home. For me, the mountains are my healing space. But I also know people who say, well, it's the coast for me, the ocean or the lakeside. And other people say it's the forest. And some people say it's the city. I get very unhappy when I have to be in the city all the time. But, some people are different and they all have their own healing spaces. So for me, going into the mountain is like meditating. It clears my head, especially when I go into the mountains or when I take people into the mountains for longer than, I think, on average 3 hours. And that doesn't have to mean, hiking really steep and challenging mountains, just walking in nature and dipping into the forest every now and again and then coming out again and see the view and literally get different perspectives after every turn you take. It also makes clear to people that you can get different perspectives on life by turning a corner, by taking a different position. Just the mountains don't necessarily change, and it only needs to be a very small turn in the trail to get an entirely different perspective all of a sudden.
Do you feel that I'm also a mountain person? So my elements are earth and water.
Yeah.
And do you work with people? I mean, not do you work with people, but tend to see that the most people that come on your journey or work with you have the tendencies more towards earth and water rather than fire and air?
It's funny because that you say earth and water, because I'm not quite sure, but I remember some time ago figuring out that my elements are earth and fire. So there you go.
Wow. Oh, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Okay. It is people that feel a need to step outside of their comfort zone, that perhaps also want a bit of a physical challenge. And the nice thing about mountains, this, is that you can pick the level of physical challenge you want to have. You can make it as hard or as easy as you want it to be.
Yeah.
But there's something about the mountains, and especially if you go deeper into the mountains and you move away from any sound that civilization brings. Where we live, you and I, it is very rare even to get an airplane come pass over so low that you could actually hear it.
Yeah.
So it is possible to go into the mountains in the middle of civilized Europe and not be hampered by, or be hampered, for lack of a better word, by the sounds of civilization, and just go back into yourself and listen to the quiet, in quotes, of nature. Because there's always sound, but it's usually, the wind rustling in the trees or the water coming down the mountain, that kind of thing.
That's true. That's so true. What has been your most exhilarating adventure up to date, and how's it shaped you or those around you?
There's two that come to mind, and both have to do with mountain climbing.
Oh, wow.
I'm scared of heights, which is always funny when I tell people I'm a mountain hiking guide, a certified mountain hiking guide, and I'm scared of heights. And I'm usually fine when I'm standing with both feet firmly on the ground. It's when the drops to either side get very steep that I'm like,
oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Or worse. So a friend of mine a couple of years ago said, well, GERDI, I'm going to go to climb the Groot. Are you coming? Which is, I think, the second or the third highest mountain in the national park Hohe here. And I looked at the weather forecast and I said, well, the weather's not so good and I have to work. So you go. And, I said very brazenly, I'll go next time, thinking, he'll go and I will never have to go. So the weather turned out to be horrible, so horrible that they couldn't go. So he called me and said, GERDI, we postponed. And you said you could do Friday. Are you coming? And I was like, shit. I don't know. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
Okay. So I was, shit, fuck, now I have to go. I can't back out now. So, and he said, we're not going to do the Groot because there's too many people. We've picked a different summit. And you have to go over a glacier and everything. Okay. And I was like, all right, well, I can't back out now. Now I have to do it. So I'm standing in this valley looking up at the mountain and I'm like, okay, this doesn't look too bad. Yeah, there's a glacier just beneath the top and then there's rocks and those rocks look very manageable. That's good. So we climb and this mountain guide, to which I'm roped, is going very fast. So I'm slowly dying and telling him he needs to slow down because I may be in good shape, but not that good shape. And we get to those rocks and I'm like, leren, kloten and shit. This is not good because this looks like a giant baby took all his blocks from his, one of those play things and just threw them up, threw them in the air. They fell all over the place. So I'm looking at these rocks and I'm like, I have crampons on my feet. I'm roped to this guy and there's steep drops to either side. How am I going to get up here? And he's going already. So he's pulling on this rope that I have to go. And we get to the top cross because every mountain in Austria is topped with a cross. This is one of the smallest. You can't even call it a plateau. It was a jumble of big rocks. And it was the smallest area where I had ever been, somewhere way over 3,000 meters. And I'm looking over my right shoulder, and I think it goes down 100 meters easily. And I'm looking over my left, and there's another, 120 meters drop. So I very carefully sit down. My friend says, yeah, we need to take a picture. And I'm like, I'm not moving. I'm staying here, because the only reason I'm going to get moving again is because we have to get up because we're leaving. But I'm not going to get up because we have to take pictures, which we usually do.
Let's go. Let's leave. Come on, guys.
Yeah. So there's only one picture of me sitting there, sort of looking happy and fearful at the same time. And then I get up and these mountain guides, they're just like chamois or mountain goats. They hop crampons on their feet. Who cares? They hop over those huge blocks as if nothing's happening, as if they're walking on level ground. But so we had to go over a very narrow ridge with ice and stuff like that back to the glacier and then go down. But it was the best mountain experience I think I've ever had because it proved to me that I can do it. I can also put my trust in somebody else, which, I'm a very independent person. I've been single all my life, which also means that I've also done a lot of stuff always by myself. I'm capable of doing a lot of stuff by myself, and it's always been challenging for me to ask for help. But, no way could I have gone up there by myself and survived, or perhaps I could have, but I probably would still be sitting on that mountain because I would have been too scared to come down.
But then what's the difference? Well, because often I hear of people where they go, okay, I've conquered that mountain like yourself, like I've conquered it and I know I can do this and anything possible. And yet you come down and you're going, as an entrepreneur, or you want to spread your message and you're going, I can't do it because I don't have, an email software or something. And then you hold yourself back with something so small, so small. Where's the difference there?
It's funny. I just watched a video by Tim Ferriss. He did a TED Talk on goal setting is all well and good, but perhaps you should be fear setting. And I like that because what he says, and I think that's true because I always tell this myself. I don't quite remember which quote he used, but we have a saying in Dutch which basically says, we fear the stories in our head much more than the actual fear.
Yeah.
So we tell ourselves stories, and I recognize that because I do it myself. I'm like, I have to reach out to people. Oh my God, what will they think? Will they even remember me? And I remember having decided I needed to reach out to my former boss. And I always had a good relationship with him. And I was like, he won't remember me. It's been 7 years since we last spoke. And he was busy. He won't have time. So I'll wait. So eventually I kicked myself in the butt and said, okay, Gerdi, you have to call this guy. And I had built this huge story about, how he wouldn't remember me, etc. So I finally sat down and I knew he would be at his desk around, 7:30 or something, talking about the day with his secretary. So I gathered all my courage and said, okay, you have to do this. And I called him and he answers and I say, well, this is Gerdi. I don't know if you still remember me. And from the other side comes this huge noise and he's going, Gerdi, this is great. And he says to his secretary, "This is Gerdi. I have to, we can do this later, can't we? I have a half hour now, don't I?"
Cool.
So, if I had listened to this story, I would never have called it. And it's like conquering that mountain. It's still scary for me to do mountains like that, but I've done it once, so I know I can do it. It is still scary to reach out to people I haven't spoken to for I don't know how many years. But that particular call told me I can do it. And it's also good if people say, well, I'm not interested. Sometimes I come close to a mountaintop and I know I still have to go down, and I decide 10 meters below that mountaintop. Well, the view from here is good too.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to, that's the leap. That's kind of the leap that you have to take. And I always say to all my clients and to anyone that I know, you never know until you know. So unless you do it, and Nelson Mandela says it as well, it's only impossible until it's done.
Yeah, there's a very nice quote from Audrey Hepburn.
Oh,
the very word impossible is impossible. It says, I'm possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love that. The first time I saw that, I'm going, why didn't I see that?
Yeah.
That should have been something I saw. That's pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me something. In order to achieve milestones, because I'm not a huge fan of the word goal, so I probably agree with Tim Ferriss. For me, a goal is just the end, and then you have to set another one. Milestones, there's something after that.
Yep.
You need to have resources to move forward. Some form of resources you need to have. What kind of resources do you have when you're setting your milestones? As a project manager, what do you do? Or do you, physical stuff, mindset stuff?
Yeah. Well, I have to be very honest. I am a former project manager, and it took me years to start project managing my life. Life was something that just happened to me. Because I really, really didn't like my job. I know I was good at it. It felt like, bringing project management into my life felt like, So my own coach kept telling me, Gerdi, you have to plan. It's a good thing to plan. Set yourself milestones. So I've started doing that, but I actually shot a video on that, and I'll be posting that on, people will be able to find that on my website. But so I've started doing that, using my project management skills to set milestones and to sort of reverse engineer what steps I need to take. And I started a mindset. I have a vision board, and one of the things I have on there, you'd like this, is I don't know, have you ever heard of Good Fucking Design?
Yes.
They have this pledge, and it's very prominently on my vision board. And every time I get scared, I'm like, okay, I hereby swear to abandon all fear, to question everything, etc.
I love that. That is brilliant.
So, yeah, and it's among my, I do daily affirmations, and one of them there is based on this one. I am willing to witness and abandon my fears. So that, those things help. And I find that through doing these affirmations every day, and I do them, they hang on my bathroom mirror, so I see them every morning and every night. It does help. It slowly builds confidence to just keep talking to yourself like that. There's lots of other stuff in there as well. But, and the whole planning process, planning my milestones, reviewing the month, reviewing the quarter, reviewing the week, that kind of thing is also helpful.
Yeah, keeping on track so you don't, go off track or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby steps.
Yeah, and I fell in love, journaling. I would love to be able to do that, but I get this pressure to write the new Harry Potter series or something. And that's just too much pressure on me, When I start truly journaling, I'm like, I have to write something that generations later will still be interesting. My life is not that interesting.
Parker and I woke up this morning. He was snoring in my face.
Exactly. That's not going to happen. So I found bullet journaling, and I have a great love of all things beautiful and paper and colorful pens. But bullet journaling is just short, simple. You can still make a sort of journal what happens throughout your day, but it's just very brief statements. So I combine that with the planning, and it keeps me on track. Yeah.
Gerdi, tell us, why do you do what you do? What's your why?
I really believe that we are not on this earth to live by other people's expectations. We are put on this earth to live our lives true to themselves, true to ourselves. And that is challenging. And that is something that I'm still learning to do myself, but I have made, since leaving corporate, huge strides in that effect, in that respect. People sometimes tell me, you never got back from your burnout, did you? You never got back to be your old self. And I'm like, I got back to being myself. Back then, I was playing an Oscar-winning performance. That wasn't me. So it's like Nelson Mandela said with his quote about, from Marianne Williamson, I think, about shining a light, that nobody is helped by not shining your light. So that's my why.
So why? And it's important for us to hear that as well, because everyone has a why, and it's just finding it as well and making it happen for yourself, because your message is too important not to hear. Too important not to hear.
Exactly.
Gerdi, we're coming to the end. Unfortunately, that's how fast it goes.
Yeah.
And for each of my guests, I have two questions that I ask you. The first one, how do you want to change the world or challenge the world doing what you do?
Boy, you couldn't have warned me about this. Jeez. How do I want to challenge the world?
Or change the world?
Or change the world. When people start living true to themselves, when they're clear about their core values, and get in touch with that, all that is good in them, I think the world would be a better place. Yeah.
I have 3 of my core values, and I'd love to hear your take on them by filling in the blank. Very simple. Creativity for you is?
Lots of colored paper and colored pens and pencils.
Cool. Love that. Passion for you is?
Mountains.
Wisdom for you is?
First thing that came up was age.
Oh, all right. Cool. Wisdom comes with age. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Gerdi.
It was a pleasure.
I look forward to hooking up, but you're not taking me on any of those major mountains. I'm not afraid of heights, but who knows? Maybe I manage them. I have no idea. Actually, I accept the challenge. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. Let's. Well, and you can show me some of your mountains.
Yeah, my little not steep ones. Exactly. Thank you so much.
I love it.
Have a lovely day.
I will.
Take care. And keep changing the world one baby step at a time.
I will.
Okay.
As long as you do too.
Yeah. Will do. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.